Welcome, everybody. Glad to see everybody here. We're actually sitting down before the meeting starts, which is a rarity. We're going to begin with a public hearing, call the regular meeting to order. If Allison could take roll call.
Mathis? Here. Ryan? Phelps?
Here.
Rodriguez? Here. Sherby?
Here.
Sestav? Here. Fletcher? Here.
Okay. And do I need a motion for this? Okay. Ms. Ham, a presentation of certificates for the interfund transfer.
So this is one interfund transfer that we're proposing tonight that was part of the FY '23 budget. This is part of the original construction budget, and this is moving $3,313,128 from Fund 10 to Fund 60. It requires approval by the Board of Education in order to do that.
10 and 60 are what?
Education to capital improvement construction.
Does anybody have any additional questions? Okay. And at this point, just for the presentation of these certificates, does anybody from the public have any comment? Okay. Hearing no, need a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay. And moving on, need a motion to open the regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Allison?
Phelps?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Aye.
Sherby?
Aye.
Sestav?
Aye.
Fletcher? Aye. Mathis?
Aye.
Ryan?
Yes.
And if everybody could please stand for a moment of silence, followed by the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at this point in the agenda, we have recognition of public comments, and we do have several tonight. This is the time when visitors can address the board on items germane to the role and function of the Board of Education. When I call your name, if you would approach the podium, and you have up to 5 minutes to tell us what you have in mind. The first person is Michael Menino,
Yes.
from the class of '88.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. My name is Michael Menino, class of '88. I was stage call president my senior year. Additionally, I was student council representative to this august board way back then. I am currently a newly minted theater club booster, and I wanted to address some of the things we have been talking about within theater booster. I've had, to put it mildly, an interesting and varied career since I left GHS for Marquette University. I've been a restaurant manager, a radio reporter, a political consultant, a public relations professional, and for almost 15 years, I've been a successful small business owner representing people in disability claims before the Social Security Administration. My time in theater, both with Prairie Players and Stage Call, and that's what we always called it, Stage Call, and that's what we will probably continue to call it for the rest of our lives, was instrumental in my success in each of these jobs. Performing on demand, rote memorization, teamwork, and individual performance were vital in the restaurant industry. Storytelling, synthesizing facts, and improvisation were crucial in radio. Politics required getting people invested in working for a greater good, as well as a great deal of writing speeches, press releases, and direct mail. All of these above skills serve me every single day in what I hope is my last job, representing the disabled before Social Security. I could easily go on for 5 minutes about the importance of theater, but I asked some of my old theater friends for their input as well. I asked them to talk about what high school theater meant to them. John Fairman of the class of '87 said, "High school drama and groups like Stage Call are a powerful setting for young people, particularly those with an artistic bent, who can often be left behind by other programs. However, success is measured, and it is measured in innumerable ways. Stage Call, high school arts are tremendously important to that equation. Bob Harrison, class of '86, and also a fellow Stage Call president, said, "Looking back on my time with this group, I remember that anyone who wanted to take part in that little theater community could find a place, a purpose, and a friend there. If for no other reason, Stage Call is deserving of our support for that." Monica Van Loo, who was elected Stage Call president after me, makes a very important point. Theater has always provided a safe haven for anyone, regardless of whether they want to shine as a star on stage or sit behind the light board. It is imperative that Stage Call remains supported and cared for many years to come. Inclusivity and acceptance has always been at the forefront of Stage Call and must be preserved for future generations seeking a safe place at school. There are several Galesburg graduates who are making a living in Hollywood. Caitlin Mulder is a dear friend of my youngest sister, and they were in the class of '92. She told me, "I was shocked and disappointed to learn of the lack of care and respect which befell the props and sets belonging to the current theater program earlier this year. I was shocked because I know District 205 to be a community of hardworking, dedicated, and committed educators who put the welfare of our kids first and foremost. I'm concerned by what seems to be a decrease in support for theater at GHS." And I want to close with a quote from Dietrich David Gray. He has been on the Apple Plus hit The Mandalorian and is producing a show bound for Broadway in 2024. All of this is to simply say theater is important, the theater is necessary. It needs your support in order to thrive. It made me who I am today and is right now being absorbed by a young person who will grow up to be just like me. I ask that you not stifle that. Please make the choice to do everything you can to nurture that experience and see that young people thrive. I have 8 copies of the remarks from everyone and a copy of my remarks as well for the board members. And I hope that you will find some time and read these over and understand how much the theater experience meant to us, how much it still means to us. Bob Harrison is creative director at an advertising agency. John Fairman has been in charge of several large schools, not-for-profit schools. The list goes on and on. So please, I feel like there's beginning to be a disconnect between the theater and the administration, and I hope that everyone will continue to work on that and repair that relationship. Thank you. I don't know where you do this.
Right here, it's fine.
Yes, and no.
Thank you.
Okay, the next presenter is Kelly and Mason Benowitz.
Hi, my name is Mason Benowitz, and I'm a junior at Galesburg High School. Over the past several years, I've grown to be the person I am today thanks to theater. I grew up quiet, shy, and theater gave me a chance to move out of my comfort zone. In fact, I would most likely not be speaking up here tonight if it weren't for the experiences I've had because of it. Theater is a chance for students who may or may not find interest in sports or other activities to come together to share common interests that can often be overlooked in school settings. Theater promotes creativity, public speaking, and the social interactions students may or may not have the chance to get in school. Along with that, the creative side of theater is invariably expressed through costumes, props, and equipment, all used to make the show exactly what they are meant to be, a performance. With that being said, it is hard to promote the performance culture when the resources we use most to make that happen are pulled from our grasp. In order to stimulate the development of theater further, not just for Galesburg High School, but for the community as well, we must show other students and families that we care about it enough to keep it going. Because with theater, we welcome anyone and everyone with open arms, just as I was when I first joined. Theater promotes inclusivity and a home to students who may not find it otherwise. So, I would like you to help us make this happen. With the right materials, the right space, and even the right bathroom facilities, this is in all ways possible. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Benowitz, also class of '88. It's not in stage call, but I'm gonna get that in there. And my son Mason, like he said, is a junior at the high school. He's always been our shy kid, believe it or not. The one we had to nudge to put himself out there and to get involved. He's our hater of sports and our lover of the arts and theater. He found his voice, he found his friends, and he found his avenue for expression through the theater. I have the pleasure of serving as the vice president of the Galesburg Theater Boosters, and I'm here to plead with you to please pay attention to these kids and what they have to say. Their first production is in a month, and there's a fear that we won't have the proper microphones or the proper tech to be able to be heard, the right props or costumes so that their play can be the best it can be. As a parent, I worry about where my son's going to change his clothes for his play, where he's going to go to the restroom during the production, in the basement, in the so-called dressing rooms. They're in the worst shape I've ever seen. All of this in a brand new school in a brand new auditorium. We need storage. We need equipment that was unfortunately and needlessly tossed out this summer. We need it replaced. We need working toilets, simple working toilets for our kids. Our kids need to know you support them and that you're committed to make their school theater experience the best it can be, and that they're treated the same as other groups and activities at the school. We as parents need to know you are helping to foster imagination in our kids. We need to know you understand that providing an education is so much more than math, science, reading, or sports, and that it's so much more than just a new building. And I know you all know this. And thank you for listening and for caring. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Nancy Hillard.
Good evening. Hi. Thanks. You can see we have a theme going here. I'm Nancy Dillard. I am not the class of anything at Galesburg High School. I didn't attend here. But I did teach here for 17 years and I taught theater. But I'm not here to talk about me or the theater and what I did or what's left behind or what's going on. You've heard that from parents. I'm here tonight. I actually told Theater Boosters, I'm the president there, that I wasn't going to speak. However, my daughter, who's an alum from here, who was a huge theater person, got on the train tonight to head back to Chicago to her job and felt good and sent me a text that she would like me to read. So I'm going to read a thing from Emily Dillard Flynn, who is now in charge of League of Chicago Theaters professionally in Chicago. I'm sorry I couldn't be with you in person this evening, but I wanted to speak to you on the importance of the theater arts, especially in a high school. I'm Emily Flynn, GHS of 2009, and I've spent a decade now in the professional theater industry in Chicago. Without GHS theater program, I would not be where I am. I feel like a lot of people see theater as something that's just extra. It's just fun. It's something that we don't really have to invest in. Don't get me wrong, theater is fun. That's why we do it. But it's also incredibly difficult work. I think when people think of doing theater professionally, they think of starving artists or out-of-work actors that are just waiting tables. But I want to talk to you about something else, another side of theater, the one I work in, which is theater administration. My time in GHS theater inspired me to choose a major that I did, a Bachelor of Science in Communication, and a theater with a double minor in business and music theater. Like many college theater programs, it's mandatory to spend a significant time of your high school theater program to prepare for your college theater program. This is the same as any AP class prepares you for college. Theater does the same thing. Theater in Chicago is a significant part of the economy of Chicago. The nonprofit company that I manage manages over 2,000 theaters. Each of these theaters is an entire team of administrators. These theaters produce shows that bring billions of dollars to Chicago each year, boost the economy, as theater viewers come into the city to stay in hotels, use transportation, dine at restaurants. I'm proud to say that I am a big part of this, especially in the city of Chicago and the theater industry that recovers from a very rough 2 years of being out of business. My time at GHS was absolutely essential for me to be in the career I am now. When I hire people to work in my non-for-profit, I seek people who did high school, college, and other theater programs. I know the benefits of a hefty theater resume, especially in high school where you fall in love with theater. Theater is a growing industry, and high schools must be able to provide this program to future theater entertainment administrators. High school theater prepares us for that professional life, whether that is in theater, TV, film, but also public speaking, teamwork, and creative fields. I could go on to tell you the amount of friends that I have that graduated from GHS that now work in professional theater, but I'll save that for another time. But there are more than us than there are professional football players that came from GHS. I thank you for your time tonight, and I send a huge, huge thank you to the GHS Theater Program for opening so many doors for me and for other students who prospered from being in the GHS Theater Program and Stage Call. Thank you for your time. Thank you very much.
Next, Melissa Headley.
Hello, I'm Melissa Headley, and I have 5 kids, and 3 of them are in the district, 2 of them haven't even started yet. And one of them is an 8th grade theater student. And this past summer, our junior senior high school theater department were dealt a huge blow when it was discovered that most of the props, electronics, and set pieces were all thrown away. At the time, it was reported that the cost of the objects was around $20,000, but after taking inventory of what was saved and making a list of what was still missing, that amount doubled to over $40,000. As of 2 weeks ago, nothing has been replaced, and we still have not been given a space for storage for any of the theater supplies. Next month, our fall production of She Kills Monsters hits the stage, and we have already had a delay on the construction of the set due to lack of supplies and building materials. And what makes it harder is the fact that funds that are set up for the theater and tech department to use have all been transferred into a general fund for all extracurricular activities to use. Meaning the staff who run these clubs now have to place a work order on anything they need, such as paint, nails, or whatever is needed, and hope it gets built in a timely manner. After the summer, we have had a lot of people ask how we can help out this department, and the answer was, we don't know yet. So what I do know is that we need for you to make good on your promise of replacing what was thrown away, and also to work with us to help find a place for storage. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Ella Oligny-Estelle.
Good evening. My name is Ella Oligny-Estelle, and I'm a sophomore at Galesburg Junior Senior High School. I'm here to talk to you today about my near 10 years experience in theater. I've been involved in theater since I was in 1st grade. I did community theater for 7 years before transitioning to the theater here at the high school. When I was in 8th grade, I auditioned for the spring musical, and it wasn't until then that I discovered just how wonderful theater could be. I joined the musical as the youngest person in the cast, and I was so worried that I'd be thrown out or left aside, or just another person in the crew. Instead, I found a family. My newfound friends taught me to use theater as a learning opportunity, and that spring, I really did learn. I learned how to healthily manage my time, compromise with others, grow my acceptance for others, and I learned how to help channel my inner motivation to push me. Besides from this, I also learned great leadership and self-confidence skills. This theater program is the only one that I've ever had the pleasure of being in that didn't charge money to enter, or any fee of any sort. All that they ask is that you show up and put effort in. At the end of the day, when I walk into my rehearsal studio, I feel like I belong. The love I have for this program and everyone in it is superfluous, as is the love I know they all have for me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. All right. Nope, that's the last of the public comments. Yeah, it's normally we don't respond to public comments at this point of the board agenda. But I personally could say that I also had a background in theater in high school, and I do value and appreciate the importance of theater. It was a place of learning and making friends and growing, and although it wasn't at this school, I'm sure it's the same here. My daughters also participated in theater here, and because of their experience, I understand and value and appreciate their needs. My conversation with other board members, I know one in particular who is very passionate about theater. He spent many of hours, of his own time working to improve theater, and every time I talk to him, he's talking about attending another performance.
I think that there's some information we'll be able to provide and correct. Now is not the time because we have to move forward into other pieces of business, but for those who would be interested in what those comments are, I would recommend you either stay until the end for comments made by the board so that some of the concerns that were suggested in the public comment can be addressed, or feel free to reach out to any of us because we do have information that might actually provide some insight that is different than what you may have right now as information.
Well said. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next portion of the agenda. That's presentations to the board. I'm going to start with Ms. Bridget Leahy, the Student Council.
Hello, I'm Bridget Leahy, Student Council Representative. The GHS Homecoming Dance Disco Fever was held Saturday, September 24th in the Field House. On Friday, October 7th, the GHS Student Council held a blood drive in Maroney Center. We had 42 people come into the event, though 9 were turned away due to low iron or other issues. We collected 35 units, which will save up to 105 lives. There were 18 first-time donors at this drive. When we collect 5 more units, we will be able to provide our first $250 scholarship to a senior. On Sunday, October 30th, the GHS Student Council will have a trunk or treat open to the community from 5 to 7 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. It's good to see you. Okay, and now the most captivating.
Just a second, we had a question.
Yes.
About the Halloween, the trick or treat event. When will that be held?
Sunday, October 30th.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next, Mr. Ron Hilton will be providing the annual financial report.
Thank you. I don't know how captivating this will be, but I'll try to make it brief. We have completed the financial audit portion of the district's audit for the year ended June 30th, 2022. We're currently working on completing the single audit, which is the federal audit piece, which is with all the COVID money received this year, it's taken a little bit longer than normal, so we should be wrapping that up in the next couple of weeks, but we have finished the financial audit, and I think you do have a draft of the annual financial report. And I did, it looks like the handout, 10-page handout I handed out to go over some of the financial highlights. Just a couple required communications we have for the board. We had no difficulties in performing the audit this year, as in last year. Jen and her staff got us everything we needed on a timely basis. We had no disagreements with management on accounting or auditing matters. As again in prior years, the only adjustments we had, we assist the district in converting the financial statements from the cash basis to the modified accrual basis. We had no findings, no internal control findings. The district has excellent internal controls over the accounting function. There's a good segregation of duties in all the different disbursement payroll receipt cycles. So an excellent accounting department. I can't always say that at a lot of districts, but it's always been that way here. So I definitely appreciate that. It makes my job a lot easier. I do have the 10-page handout. I'll just go over some of the highlights of the year. Feel free to interrupt me and ask me questions, and I will
answer them if I can. We did issue our opinion on the annual financial report as an unmodified opinion, and the annual financial report is a regulatory-based financial statement that is required by the Illinois State Board of Education. So the unmodified opinion means it's a clean opinion, the best opinion you can get on your financial statements. Then we also look at, within the annual financial report, there's a page that has the financial profile score of the district. That's the way the ISBE rates the various districts' health through the state. There's 4 categories. The district score for 2022 was 3.7 out of 4, and the designation is recognition, which is the highest designation you can get. Last year's score was also a 3.7, so when the ISB's model, the district is in fine financial health. Now I'll briefly go over the 10-page handout. The first page is the condensed balance sheet for the operating funds. The operating funds are considered by the Illinois State Board of Education to be the educational fund, operations and maintenance, transportation, and working cash funds. So I've got those laid out and totaled here on this sheet. The first section are your total assets. The total assets of the operating funds of the district for 2022 were approximately $47.8 million. That is an increase of about $200,000 over 2021. The next section down are liabilities. Total liabilities of the operating funds were about $8.7 million. For 22, they were $9.5 million. In 21, or a decrease in your liabilities of about $800,000. And the final section is your fund balance, or I guess would be in a for-profit business, your equity of the operating funds was about $39.1 million, and that increased about $1.1 million from the previous year. The next page then is the condensed statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances. Again, these are the operating funds. The top section are your revenues. You had total revenues for the year of about $48.9 million, or an increase of about $1.3 million over the prior year. Your total expenditures were $46.2 million. That was an increase of about $5.6 million from the previous year. I'll get into a little more specifics of what some of the increases and decreases were back in the individual funds. But that does leave you with an excess of revenues over expenditures for the year of about $2.7 million. You did have an operating transfer out of approximately $1.6 million. That went into your capital projects funds to help offset some of the costs of the construction projects that were going on. So after the transfer out, you ended up with a net increase in your fund balances of $1,070,000 for a year. And again, your ending fund balance at June 30th, 2022 was $39.1 million. The next page is just the educational fund, the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances. The educational fund is the main operating fund of the district. See about halfway down the page, your total revenues for the year were $45.3 million. That was an increase of about $1.4 million from the previous year. Some of the larger changes for the year, the second section down are your state sources. Evidence-based funding ended up being about $16.8 million for the year. That was an increase of about $922,000. And in total, your evidence-based funding was up about $1.4 million in 22 over fiscal year 21. So that was a nice increase there. Then your, another item is in your federal sources. The bottom section there, your National School Lunch Breakfast Program, got about $2.4 million in revenue from that, and that was an increase of approximately $1.4 million over the prior year. The next section down are your expenditures. You had total expenditures of about $42 million for the year. That was an increase of about $4.4 million. The largest increase is the first item in that section, your salaries. Those were $29.8 million, or about a $3.5 million increase from last year. I think a lot of that increase was due back in 2021. You had furloughed some employees due to the COVID shutdown in the first part of 2021, so you didn't have those expenditures for the first half of the year. So they were, I guess last year would have been a little artificially lower than what they normally have been. And then the fifth item down, capital outlay, was about $3.4 million. That's about a $750,000 increase. And that was some of your ESSER, your COVID money. You use that to fund some of the constructions with the grant, especially on the, I believe the Early Childhood Center. So that accounts for most of the increase there. It does leave you with an increase or an excess for the year of about $3.3 million. $300,000 was transferred into Fund 60, or the Capital Projects Fund, to help fund some of the building, leaving you with a total increase in the educational fund for the year of about $3 million and a ending fund balance of $32.4 million in your education fund. Now I'll quickly just go over the operations and maintenance fund. There was not a lot of change from last year. We had total revenues of about $1.8 million in last year, in both years. So a total increase of about only $25,000. Total expenditures were $1.9 million. Those increased about $370,000 over the prior year. And you had a small deficiency of revenues over expenditure of about $13 million. Leaving you with an ending fund balance of about $2.9 million in your operation and maintenance fund. The next page, your transportation fund. Again, not a lot of change in the revenues, about $1.7 million in revenues, a slight decrease of about $110,000 from the prior year. The biggest portion of that was in your transportation claim, which is about $800,000. That was down about $137,000 from the prior year. Most of that is, again, due to COVID-related. You weren't transporting students in the first part of 21, so you didn't incur those costs in your transportation contract with first student. Therefore, you weren't able to claim reimbursement for them. Next section down, total expenditures were about $2.3 million. That's an increase of about $850,000 in the prior year. The big increase again was purchase services, which is your transportation contract. That was up about $900,000. Again, you weren't transporting students the first part of the year, so you didn't have to pay on that contract. That leaves you with a deficiency for the year of about $592,000, or an ending fund balance of $3.1 million. Then the last page of the numbers is the capital projects and fire prevention and safety funds, also known as the construction funds. I just want to point out a couple items here. The total revenues for the year were $9.2 million. Those are up about $3.1 million from the prior year. The big item was up in your local sources. Your replacement taxes were about $2.3 million. Overall, your replacement taxes more than doubled during the year. They're up about $2.6 million over 2021. And that has been pretty much across the board at all the governmentals and school districts I've seen. There, for some reason, I guess it's the economy was going a little bit better, and they were collecting more of the personal property replacement taxes and paying out more, but that was, your replacement taxes did go up about $2.5 million. The next section, expenditures. You had expenditures of about $27.3 million. They were up slightly from $300,000. You continued finished some of the construction, continued working on the GSS renovation, started some of the renovation on the Northwoods Church building. That should be wrapping up here, a lot of that should be wrapping up here soon, in this year, 2023. You did have transfers in of the $1.6 million from the other funds. You had proceeds from the sale of Nielsen School of about $100,000. That leaves you with a deficiency for the year of about $16.4 million, which was obviously planned. You did issue bonds in the prior year to use on the construction. And that leaves you at the end of the year with a fund balance of about $2 million in your construction. Then the next page is a graph comparing your operating funds, revenues, and expenditures over the 5-year period. The blue line represents revenues, the red line is expenditures. As you can see, you've had excess of revenues over expenditures in your operating funds for the past 6 years. Your excess was about $2.7 million here in fiscal year 2022. And the last year that the district was running a deficit was back in 2016. So it's been a few years. You've had a few good years of building your surpluses and your fund balance, which you'll see then on the next page. And this is the operating funds fund balance. You can see from 2017 to 2020. The ending fund balance in the operating funds is about $39.1 million. Like I said earlier, with the excesses over the past several years, you've shown a nice increase in your fund balance. It's actually increased over the past 6 years, about $23.4 million. So that's puts you in a very strong financial position there in your operating funds. Then the next graph is just a graph just comparing your 2022 operating fund revenues. The 3 main sources of revenues for the district are the evidence-based funding, real estate taxes, and your federal grants. As you can see, for 2022, your federal sources were about 24%. I looked back in 2020, that accounted for about 13% of your total revenue. So the shift has been due mainly to the COVID funding you received, and you received a little more funding from the National School Lunch and Breakfast Program. Real estate taxes for 2022 were about 31% of your total revenues. 2 years ago, they accounted for 34% of your revenues. And lastly, evidence-based funding accounts for about 34% of your total revenues. And in 2020, that accounted for about 40% of your revenues. So you've got kind of changed your mix a little bit here in the last couple of years. Then the final graph then is just a graph of your operating expenditures by object. As you can see, the largest chunk of your expenditures go towards salaries and benefits. That's about 73%, and that's it's a little bit higher than it was last year, but not significantly. And that actually is about $30.3 million is what you spend on of your total expenditures are on salaries and benefits for your personnel. That completes my specific comments. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Does appear as though there's any questions. I do thank you again for taking the time to present to us, and I'm very pleased that there's no findings and we are in, as you said, fine financial health.
Yes, you are.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me at any time. So.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Next on the agenda, I have someone who's not on the agenda, the GHS high school principal, Mr. Tom Hawkins, is going to talk to us.
Thank you for providing me this opportunity. School safety is something that I think we find really important. And there's been some concerns among our staff at Galesburg High School with some of the recent behaviors that we've seen increase. And as a result, last Wednesday, we met as a staff, as a steering committee, to start planning a community forum based on school safety, and we're called the School Safety Town Hall. Out of that meeting, we came up with 3 basic goals. And our goals are to provide factual information and data to our student body, their families, and our community partners. Our second goal, respond to the concerns and questions from the Galesburg Junior, Senior High students, families, and community, while allowing an opportunity for all voices to be represented, heard, and respected. And our final goal is to work together to provide solution-based ideas and incorporate a plan of action moving forward. This is something that we've started planning. Our main hope is that our tentative date is for November 1st, utilizing the Roland Hagen Fine Arts Center, and also the common area where we can have breakout sessions, and get community feedback, and then come back together, reassemble, and try to come up with an action plan, and maybe future events or opportunities for our family engagement specialists to bring people into our schools and have real conversation about some of the issues that are really concerning to us. I think that there is this belief in our community that our staff is unaware of what is going on in our hallways. I want to say that is completely false. Our staff is very concerned. Our administration is very concerned. And we want it to stop because we want a safe learning environment for all of our students, okay? And we have just some basic data that we had at our upperclassmen level from 9th through 12th grade, about 94% of our students, each one of those grades does not even have a referral. And if we were to throw tardies out, and that's something that we've made created by a large campus at a 5-minute passing period, which we're gonna try to adjust, it might even go up, all right? So this is something that we are very concerned about, and we are being proactive about. And we look forward to everybody's participation. And we wanna make this a community event, not just an event for high school age students, because we know talking with other principals, there are some behaviors in their schools that they're quite concerned with as well. All right, so we'll make this a community event, bring it together. The ideas that come out of it are able to go back into each of our individual schools, help our family engagement specialists plan a series of family events to talk about these real issues. You are all invited. We have another meeting Thursday morning to talk about this. Right now it's being headed by our 2 family engagement specialists, which is Devon Earls and Stephanie Wood. So once again, we're meeting this Thursday again, and our tentative date is November 1st, and we'd like to have everybody there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. I do appreciate you providing us that information. I know that student safety is something that we all share and value as an important aspect of our educational process. Next, we need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Allison?
Rodriguez?
Aye.
Shelby?
Aye.
Tomatoes?
Aye.
Mustad?
Aye.
Fletcher?
Aye.
Ryan?
Yes.
Phelps?
Aye.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the building reports. Everybody's received them in their board packets. Do we have any questions or comments? Yes, as a general comment to the principals, you know, we do value, we absolutely read every one of those reports. And it tells us what's going on in your buildings, and, you know, we all can't necessarily be there all the time to see exactly what's going on, but it's nice to be able to read the good things that are going on in your schools, so we do appreciate that.
Remind me, we are starting to see the attendance in the reports,
Yes,
and we're receiving, is it quarterly reports on discipline?
Quarterly,
That's what, okay.
that would be.
okay. And next, Ms. Statham, the special ed report.
I don't have anything else to add to my report. I'm losing my voice too.
I think it's going around. And likewise, everybody's read that report. You have any questions? Thank you. And finally, Ms. Ritchie with the student and staff sports report. Welcome to the table, by the way.
Good evening, thank you for having me. I appreciate it very much. I've also submitted a report. I'd like to give you the opportunity to ask any questions or seek clarification on anything that I've shared.
How do you use the big red van outside?
How do we use it?
Yes.
You're welcome to use it. That's something you're interested in?
I'm just, what's in there? It's so big.
Well, we just added shelving. We've added toiletry items, clothing items. The Keisha Cares program uses that vehicle to move around the city and meet any emergent needs that our families have.
Could you clarify what the big red van is for this position?
Absolutely. Yes, at the end of November, it will be wrapped and we will unveil it, for the community, to actually officially move the name of the service from SEL on Wheels to Keisha Cares to honor, Keisha that, passed away actually a year ago today. Keisha, for those that don't know, served in our district for many years and was a tireless supporter of our students in a multitude of ways. So by honoring her through naming that vehicle for her, we hope to carry on the legacy that she began in our district. You're welcome.
Okay. Next we have Member Lyon presenting on the Building and Grounds Committee report.
No pictures today. The 7-12 the building is all but finished, but a few issues left. The Ag Performing Arts Center had its opening this past week with 2 concerts. On Tuesday, there was a 7th and 8th grade choir concert. And then on Sunday afternoon, there was the 7th and 8th grade band concert. Both were well attended, and it was a pleasure to see people excited about the facility, and I sat toward the back, and I heard things went quite well. So I think everyone will enjoy using it. 2 weeks from this week, we have 3 concerts in the facility. There's the high school choir and the high school band, and then the 29th, it's being used for the Knox Galesburg Symphony in that facility. So it'll be well used. The summer projects are finished. The steel cabinetry's in, steel sidewalk. Progress is moving over to the 940 building. The office side toward the east should be occupied by January. And this preschool will be ready before the students arrive next August. Things are moving along quite well in that facility. We've begun the process to evaluate facility needs around the district for the next 2 summer projects. We'll bring that information to the board, probably not so next 2 months, probably for next summer. As we know, there are 2 seasons in Illinois, only the same here in Galesburg. There's winter and construction, and the board is committed to keeping the condition of our facilities in top quality for the staff and children with the programs they wish to participate in. So if you feel there's something we're not doing, let us know, and we'll see how it fits in the plans for the future. Okay? Thank you.
Anybody have any questions for Member Line? Okay, moving on, need a motion to consider approval of the annual financial report.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Ham?
You have the annual financial report that Mr. Henry presented to you tonight, and it requires the board to approve that to move on to the ROE and to the Illinois State Board of Education.
Ms. Ham, is it possible to get, I don't know, he brought forward some important points around ESSER and capital funds and the ways in which that has changed the makeup of our revenues and costs, and I'm wondering if you could provide for us in the coming months some kind of estimation on how, as those variables leave our budget, what the effect will be moving forward.
Yes.
Okay. And I just wanna acknowledge, again, on the record, the difficult pain that this district has gone through in order to get to this point of financial stability. And that, the decisions that we make at this table are not always easy, but that when we receive a report like that, it shows that we are paying attention to not only the services that we provide our students and the ways in which we support our teachers and staff, but also our responsibility to the taxpayers. Because we have done all of that, and we are in a better financial position than we were in 2014, and we have not, raised taxes?
We've actually lowered it.
Okay.
Tax rate. Yes, in 2016, I believe it said that we were over $2 million in debt, and now we're in a much better position. Thank you. And Mr. Hilton also kind of gave a little shout out to the work of Ms. Ham of the excellent accounting, which makes his job so easy and helps put us in this excellent position. So I do thank you for that. Allison?
Shirley?
Aye.
Westhead? Aye. Fletcher? Aye. Cervantes?
Aye.
Glenn?
Yes.
Phelps?
Aye.
Rodriguez?
Aye.
Okay, need a motion to consider approval of the interfund transfer resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Allison?
Westhead? Aye. Fletcher? Aye. Cervantes?
Aye.
Glenn?
Yes.
Phelps?
Aye.
Rodriguez?
Aye.
Shirley?
Aye. Need a, okay. Yeah, I don't need a motion for this. Ms. Ham, can you give us information on the emergency connectivity?
Thank you. So the federal government, over the past 2 years, has issued 3 emergency connectivity fund grant proposals that allow school districts to apply for emergency connectivity funds for students and staff. And we have applied for all 3, the last one being in August, and we have received all 3. This should be the last round, but it has been very helpful with the replacement of our devices for our students and now for devices for our faculty. So round 3 of the E-rate emergency connectivity fund was $226,000 for the district. That will allow us to purchase 158 laptops through E-rate funds to replace faculty laptops that are a couple years old, which is wonderful. And then we were able to procure that bid through OSI, so we're supporting our local businesses as well with these federal funds. So the board does not need to take action because actually E-rate pays OSI directly. They've changed some of the procurement processes for this round. Typically, the funds would come to us and then we would pay the vendor, but the vendors are being paid directly this time, so it doesn't require board action. This is a very good thing for the district, so we're just informing everyone of the plan and then why it's not requiring board approval.
Thank you, that is great news. Okay, but I do need a motion to consider approval of board policies 7-272 and 8-100.
So moved.
Okay, Dr. Askew.
policies. We may have more policies next month, depending on whether or not the press policy update comes. It should, but we wanted to make sure we got these in. So board policy 7272 is a new policy that we asked to be written to allow our staff, the trained staff, it's only a very select few people, to provide naloxone, which is Narcan. So hopefully if we never have to do it, but if somebody's overdosing, we have some staff that can be trained to provide this life-saving drug to people. So that's what that policy outlines, the procedure for that. And then policy 8100 is an existing policy that we are amending or would ask that you be considered to be amended. And that policy talks about, outlines what organizations we have that we can have ongoing special relationships with, and we named the Galesburg Public Library. It was not a specific name party in that, so we just added that party to the policy. So those are the two. This is first reading, and if you approve first reading, it will be on next month for second reading.
I would like to thank Member Ryan for bringing to our attention the needed change for policy 8100 and allowing us the opportunity to have better communications with the public library. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
And what, like, who will be approved on the approved list? I read the thing and I was really good.
Yeah, so, the nurses, and any other specifically trained faculty we could have that would be taking part of that, but nurses specifically, and then anybody else that would be trained to do it. But they have to receive the training before they can give that drug to anybody.
So is it similar like when certain people get trained on defibrillators?
Yeah, I would put more like an EpiPen, but yeah, it would be similar to that. I mean, it's gonna be a very specific, we're gonna be going up to, I'm just looking at Colleen, so, hey Colleen, here, let's give you naloxone. No, I mean, it's specific people. You gotta pay attention. In English class, I called on only people who weren't looking at me. So.
It's not English.
I know, but it's old habits die hard.
I know how to administer it,
But anyway.
pen, FYI.
Yeah, so, no, it would be mostly people in the office, people that have the ability to see students more quickly than we would ask, teaching staff.
And would we have, is it the possibility that it's only gonna be located in that main office where the nurses station is, and not upstairs in the other location?
It would be in the lot cabinets, yeah.
Okay. Allison?
Fletcher? Travis?
Aye.
Klein?
Yes.
Phelps?
Aye.
Rodriguez? Aye. Schultz?
Aye.
Besthoff? Aye.
Next, need a motion to consider approval of trip requests.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Matthews, did you elaborate on this?
That's the,
Oh, this is the theater department.
This is
whether
the
it's
theater
at the
department.
Theater Fest.
Theater Fest in Champaign, it's moved this year, I guess.
It goes every other year.
Every other year.
Okay.
Is it? Well, my memory's getting bad, I always thought it was at ISU.
It flips. University of Illinois.
Well, anyway,
back
this is
forth.
you, David Craner.
And it's a short request, January 12th to the 14th of upcoming year, between 15 and 30 students. Any questions?
This is the type of thing that people raise funds for them? Students raise funds for them?
Well, typically, as with any camp, that some of the lodging gets paid for by the fundraising, otherwise the district pays for most of the admittance fees.
Allison?
Travis?
Aye.
Klein?
Yes.
Phelps?
Aye.
Rodriguez? Aye. Schultz?
Aye.
Besthoff? Aye. Fletcher? Aye.
I need a motion to approve, job descriptions.
So moved.
Second.
One job description there, it's for the warehouse, person, because, the job description previously had a different person in charge of them. And also there's some new systems in place out there, so it was getting the job description specifically to that person's chain of command and their specific roles.
The differential job descriptions, the timeline on that, looking for that?
I would
The ones we pulled last
Yeah, I
time.
believe we'd be back next month. We still were working with some of the people that had those job descriptions to make sure that they addressed all their concerns.
Allison? update and report on FOIA requests. Oh, shoot, I'm skipping along too fast. Need a motion to consider approval of personnel report.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Allison?
Phelps,
Aye.
Rodriguez,
Aye.
Sharpie,
Aye.
Lester,
Aye.
Fletcher, Surratt,
Aye.
Lyon.
Yes.
Now the grievance update and report on FOIA.
Just to be short and sweet, we have no new grievances, and, we have no outstanding grievances. We do have one that's at, arbitration, but that'll be a while. And then I have no FOIAs, so no FOIAs last month, which is weird, usually I have some, but not this month.
Okay. So we're starting to wrap things up. Comments by Board of Education. I'll start on my left. Member Fetcher.
That's mine, thank you.
Okay. Member Phelps.
Pass.
And Member Lyon.
Okay. Today, in many places around the country, we're celebrating Indigenous Peoples' Day. Students around the world, students from our area are often residents, started in residents of other countries. And this is, they celebrate the original residents here in this country. And I'm glad they welcomed us all here. Also, I'd like to mention that before our next board meeting, there's an election. And I hope we have students who are 18 registered to vote, as well as all the adults in the community to take advantage of the democracy that we're so proud of here.
Go to my right. Member Pascal.
I wasn't gonna comment, but, what Mr. Hawkins was speaking about tonight is so very important. One thing that this board recognizes is definitely behaviors, relationships that's happening in the school district. Those who sit on this behavior committee up here work hard with administration. You know, a few of us do have kids in this district, we care. I'm happy to hear that we are getting families involved, community members involved, because it's not just the school. There's accountability on all of us to work collaboratively together to get this figured out. And it's important. I'll be there. Just let me know when, time. And we're just gonna keep working at it, because it takes all of us at the end of the day. So, appreciate the work. Thank you.
Member Cervantes.
Well, of course, I have things to say. So I do want to share some data for those who have graciously stayed until the end of our meeting regarding comments that were made at the beginning in public comment regarding the theater program. This does not address everything, but to date, we have ordered $68,000 in new microphones, $3,000 in ladders and mobile stairs for the new tech director. The money that was in the activity account for theater has been moved into a Q account, which is, our Q accounts are reserved for specific uses, and in this case, reserved for theater production costs and used to support theater production costs. A fine arts committee was formed this year the purpose of that is to help guide and improve production costs. And for the record, the members of that committee, not to put you out there, but in case people have further questions, Member Lyon, Mr. Tom Hawkins, Andy Emby, who is our fine arts coordinator, Aaron Glasnovich, Scott Rosso, Mason Holtgren, and Katrina Weingart. And that committee approved full budgets for the fall junior high play, and will approve the budget for musical once it's submitted, correct? Storage space is being furnished with shelving, but the shelving is not installed yet, and until then, Mr. Emby has found storage for theater to use. And we'll also be providing some racks for the clothing for the production. The dressing room is still under some construction, but should be finished by the time the production hits in November, barring any delays. And unfortunately, some of those delays are not within our control, but it's lights, correct?
It needs general cleaning.
Cleaning, right.
Bathroom issues too. We're quite aware of those though.
Right.
It was discussed today at Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting.
Mhm. So I just wanna make sure that everybody is aware that these things are not unknown to the members who sit and recognize that, you know, Maury does a lot of work and due diligence. I would say that each member sitting up here on the board, while we lead and make decisions with all students, staff, and community members in mind, each of us has what I would term as a passion area. And the theater is definitely Member Lyon passion area. And I have not ever seen a stronger advocate sitting up here while I've been on this board for theater. And the state-of-the-art performance center that we have, I'm not gonna give all the credit to Member Lyon, but I will give a good hell of a chunk of credit to Member Lyon, because he made sure during that entire process that we were not cutting corners and that we were bringing experts in that would be able to help design a state-of-the-art facility for our students to use. So I just wanted, now, again, that doesn't solve or address all of the challenges that folks brought up, but I did wanna make sure that that is on public record, that those things are either have been ordered or are in process, because I do not want this community to think that this board does not support all students in our district. And then to Tom Hawkins, and the Safety Forum, this is what I'm gonna say. And to, in some way, reiterate what Member Bestchat has said. In many ways, school districts, not only here in District 205, but across the nation, have become more than educational buildings and learning centers for children. And our teachers and our staff are asked to do more every year in regards to taking care of this community's children. And the challenges that we face in our district, first of all, are not isolated. We are not the only district that faces them. And two, cannot be addressed. Absolutely cannot be addressed by the staff and the teachers in that building alone. Students' behavior, students' ability to interact, self-regulate their emotions and their responses to interactions with their peers in real time or on social media has to be a partnership. I am a parent, and my son will be the first to tell you that anytime he came home and he had an issue at school, the first question out of my mouth, what was your role? What did you do? How were you a part of it? Because I know, as a parent, because I was a child, that he is not completely innocent in whatever interaction, altercation, whatever the case may be. He's not completely innocent. They can't be. They're children. If you are concerned with the ways in which things are happening and behaviors are manifesting inside our schools, please show up to that town hall and contribute some solutions. Contribute your time. Have conversations with your children at home. Talk to them about what they're seeing on social media, how they're engaging in social media, how they may be perhaps instigating behavior. Encourage conversations about what they need in their buildings to be heard, to be safe. And I will tell you that there is a misperception out there that it's just a kind of student. And that misperception would be entirely wrong. This is not gonna get solved overnight, and it is definitely not only on the backs of our teachers and our staff in the buildings. This has got to be a community effort.
No comments.
You don't wanna
It's
follow
a
that
hard
up?
one to follow, no.
Okay. I guess I got some comments, not real organized. First I wanna address the people that came here to speak on behalf of theater. I appreciate you all coming out here. I value all of you. It's, you know, particularly when you relate to how theater has impacted your lives, you know, from the alumni, you know, how some of them have actually, you know, gone on to work, you know, in the performing arts professionally, and those that haven't, how theater has impacted your lives as far as public speaking and whatnot. And as far as the students, you know, they came up and spoke today. You know, I'm very impressed with their ability to come and talk to us in this type of a venue. It's not an easy thing to do, and I appreciate that. Knowing all the board members fairly well over the past many years, I can relate to you that we are all supporters of the theater program, the fine arts program. You know, although there's, you know, been some things that, you know, Member Servanis, you know, kind of pointed out, you know, concerning microphones and other supplies. You know, we do have a financial commitment to the theater program, and we will support it. However, the venue for, you know, to address these issues isn't necessarily through social media, but we do have people assigned to these programs, you know, and, you know, through the chain of command, if things are needed, you know, we certainly will address them, and it will come to our attention, you know. We want a thriving, positive theater program like we've had in the past, and we look forward to growing even greater. You know, and I don't believe it necessarily helps to disparage the administration and the board for, you know, pulling resources and whatnot, because that's not necessarily the situation. You know, we do have a gorgeous, you know, new theater that I look forward to seeing presentations there. I do look forward to that. And there's been a lot of, you know, work and a lot of input in the creation of that facility. And I think it's gonna do great things for our community. You know, some of the stuff that we need to finish it, you know, yeah, it takes time for some of these supplies to actually, you know, to get in, for, you know, for facilities to be at the top notch that we want them to be. It's a process. It doesn't necessarily happen overnight. The front of the house is gorgeous. It's the back of the house we need to work on, and we're not unaware of what goes on behind the stage. So I don't know. I hope that helps a little bit. As for Mr. Hawkins, again, you know, safety is a, you know, you mentioned some of the things that we really value. For me, being a law enforcement officer, you know, I believe that every student in our school and all of our staff members need to feel safe in that learning environment. And I'm glad we're not ignoring, you know, any issues that arise in our schools. Instead, we're gonna address them, and we're gonna address them in an open format so that we get the input from all the stakeholders, you know. It wouldn't be right for me as a police officer to go in there and tell you how I'm gonna fix security in your building. You know, we need to listen to everybody, and thank you and appreciate the time you're devoting to this, because I know it is a big task. Let's see, what else can I mention? I did get the opportunity to go around to many of our buildings. We had the open house, the 712 open house. I think that was a roaring success. I heard a lot of really great comments from members of the community that are routinely in the buildings. And hopefully our performing arts people will be able to bring them in to see our facilities more often, because I heard nothing but really positive comments from them. I did, with a couple of the other members here, get to attend the 7th grade choir performance, and it was a wonderful experience. It was nice to be able to actually hear the students, singing, and to, sit in a comfortable chair. I enjoyed that. Let's see what else happened from last meeting. I also had the opportunity to listen to a city council meeting, where our superintendent, Dr. Asplin, and the superintendent, Jody Grace, gave a presentation to the members of our community about the after-school programs that we have. I know that much of us are aware of the 21st Century Grant and all the great things that they're doing, but it's nice to be able to share that with the rest of the community. And they kind of talked about how they could partner with us, with the community center, and continue to support our students after the school day. So I think that's a great thing. I got a member of the student council down there, and I want to thank her for all the work that she's done. Since the last meeting, we've had homecoming parade, it's a blood drive. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend the blood drive this year because I had other tennis commitments. But I know that's a great program. If anybody does donate blood, to try to schedule it with their blood drive, because that's an opportunity to raise funds for scholarships. Let's see. Today I had the opportunity to visit Lombard, and what a beautiful school. It's fun watching the our teacher there was making some fun stuff for the classrooms.
It's
So,
my night, I guess.
Yeah.
It's the chair. It's the chair.
I thought maybe you'd bring some samples for everybody, but, I also went to Silas Willard. It's, again, neat stuff going on at school. I want to give a shout out to Jason Runbaum, who finished 13th in state, GHS golfer. Yeah, this is his second time, I believe, going to state, and he's done a fine job representing us. That's about it. I already welcome Ms. Matthews to the board. Oh, I'm sorry, I saw Mindy on my list there. Oh man, I've been everybody in trouble today. Do we have? Yeah. A member line, do we have any future agenda items? Anybody else, any future agenda items?
We need to designate a delegate for the joint conference.
Yes.
And that will be on the agenda for next month, so if you want to, I'm sorry.
If you are interested in being a delegate, Member Rodriguez already wants it, so you can think about it for next year. But no, seriously, if you really want, we do name a delegate and a backup. So if you are interested, let President Shirky know that will be on the agenda for next month.
Sounds good. Okay, the next meeting is Monday, November 14th, 7 p.m. Need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.